bisschen Nageln.
And we're back. This is KTCR, the one and only. That's Kill the Cat Radio. Because what killed the cat? Curiosity. The satisfaction brought it back. I'm Matthew Diabate, your host. We're back at it again, interviewing the most interesting and talented local celebrities from around the way. Our guy today is a multi-instrumentalist, singer, songwriter, composer, and professor, Christopher North. We got another Texan on the podcast. I think he's the fourth one. He came from a modest upbringing, and he moved here to New York City in the late 90s to pursue his dreams of music and performance. He's been through the ups and downs of a classic artistic career here in the Big Apple, and we have him today on KTCR to learn and to listen about just what it takes to stay positive, about just getting the work done, and as Christopher says, how to bend but not break. Take a listen.
Try those headphones on real quick. Now, I know you're a music guy, so like I had to get
No,
correct.
7506. I could have brought my own 7506s, dude. I have my own. I have like these are 7506s.
I love those ones. Can you hear yourself?
I can hear myself.
How do you feel about it?
It sounds good, man. I mean, I'll work with the proximity effect on some things if I need to.
I mean, you can go like this all day.
Yeah,
but also like that's fine. And then I'll take out that unfortunate
fan.
air conditioning.
But you got to at least make sure we got to turn on the on-air light. That's got to be a definite thing.
God, I'm so honored to have this.
No, this is awesome. One of my day jobs was
turn on the volume.
was playing
so it doesn't hurt our
on
minds.
Broadway, and one of the most annoying things about playing on Broadway is the fact that in your headphones, all the people whose phones are going off in the front row or so are making all headphones go do 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 do.
Wait, what is this?
It's all the EMF coming off the phones. So the phones,
what?
if I put my phone right next to this thing,
okay,
the old school phones would actually make little EMF sounds in the microphone, and it would pick it up.
You know all this stuff.
Yeah,
because you're a teacher.
Well, something like that. But the point being is like one of the things that's the most annoying thing about that kind of a job is the fact that you're hearing sounds that nobody else hears.
Oh, if you're trying to make it perfect.
Well, yeah, or it's just a freaking distracting as hell.
So wait, you did recording jobs like that? You had to do stuff like
No, I'm just talking about me playing bass on a Broadway show.
Okay, so you're at... Okay.
I'm playing bass on a Broadway show. I've got headphones.
You played bass at a Broadway show.
I played bass on a Broadway show. So there's that. But I'm
glad I shaved.
Cheerio. You got the... Awesome, man.
Oh, man. Chris North. So happy to have you.
It's freaking awesome to be here, man. But it's also weird that I start off with Broadway. But whatever, man. The point being is...
Broadway's perfect.
It's just interesting because there are day jobs that sound awesome, and that was a great job. But the thing about it that was nuts was that you'd be hearing people's phones, electronic signals in your headphones like the whole time.
That's gonna fuck with you though. Like
it really is.
Out there, like you're doing
your thing, and you have to use the headphones, and it's picking up the EMF from the people in the front row. And by the way, who is this woman in this?
No, this is actually a really great picture.
There's a woman in this room with us right now.
Just so you guys know, in the Kill the Cat radio studios in the Villa Borghese, this is actually a picture from the Playboy Mansion. Actually, a woman took this inside the Playboy Mansion, and this is a painting of a woman, and that's Frank. I'm not sure if it's an original one, but it's right there. And this print was taken in 2007 in the Playboy Mansion.
Have you been to the Playboy Mansion?
I've never. I mean, no.
I've not either.
I'm not that cool.
I don't think either one of. No offense, neither one of us is that cool. It's probably.
Well, first of all, you're kind of cool.
I'm not.
You're kind of a little bit cool, Chris.
No, man. But even how we met was like.
We're gonna go right into that. We might as well go right into that. But it's to our listeners, this is a really, really happy day for me to get this guy over here. I meet a lot of people in my life, and I meet a lot of interesting artists. But this guy, me and him have been partners in crime for, I mean, shit. When did we?
That would have
been.
You're
probably one of the first people I've ever met in New York City that I was like, okay, this is a real artist.
Yeah.
I mean, 2006.
It wouldn't. I mean, did I already have a kid? It was when. Did it
You
with,
had a child.
so then that would have been 2008, 2009. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
you can
that's
base it on a child.
But you can base it on a child. So basically, we are a kid right now. Our relationship.
How old is Xavier?
Xavier is 13. So.
Hello, Xavier.
Yeah, no.
You'll listen to this later. It'll be on the internet. I'm hanging out with your dad. Your dad's a wonderful man.
And this is
Very
the
talented.
Xavier.
Wonderful
This
father.
is the kind of interesting guy that you met at. You've met him 2 times, I think.
Xavier, you met me a couple times.
But it was at least I know for sure it was at the poetry festival on Governor's Island.
Poetry Festival, right? So yeah, that's a great. All right, let's start there. So how did I meet you? I met you.
We met at the IFP, which is now called Gotham for some reason.
Oh, really? They changed it?
They changed it. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's up with that. But IFP is this international what
was it?
Independent Film Project is what it's
Independent
called.
Film Project. Okay. So we both signed up.
That's right. I've been
together. I didn't know this guy
I've been
that
going there for years, just based on meeting filmmakers, and to all the young composers out there, the one thing to be the one male in the Amazon of to be a film composer and meet 100 filmmakers in one day is to go to IFP. So that's what you do. So I was there to do that.
Humbling experience.
And this one particular year, now they've done it in Williamsburg, they've done it at Lincoln Center, they've done it now in downtown Brooklyn. But this one particular year, they did it at FIT, the Fashion Institute.
Right.
So we met on the day that Kevin Smith was talking, and that's why we met.
He was doing a talk, and I remember that. And then I don't know what I was doing there. I was like, I was trying to be Mr. Filmmaker at that point. Like I was like, I'm gonna make a movie until I realized you need money.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That is a problem, but there's it's.
But whatever. And then so I went over to get a burrito at Chipotle.
Right.
Not to promote some corporate bullshit.
No, and that was even pre-knowing that it was freaking McDonald's. Like, I didn't even know it was McDonald's at the time. Like, they got me. They actually had me, man. I was like, wow. Here's a Texan in New York, and I'm kind of enjoying this burrito. It's cheap. It's good.
You're a Texan.
I'm a Texan in New York,
Yeah,
but
man.
we met at the Chipotle at 7th and like 28th or so.
What were we doing? Yeah, I remember.
We both had our little
our badges.
Badges on. We had our credentials on. So that was it. It was like, oh hey, hey.
And you're a friendly guy, and like you're open to things, and you're like, hey, you're at the this, and then we talked, and I guess we were both going to the. We were all both waiting for the
Kevin Smith thing.
2 p.m.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith talk, right?
We could probably look that up. What exact day that was?
We should look at. We probably can
We could actually tell.
Date our date.
We will know our date.
It's terrible. We're straight.
It'll be in the fall.
It's terrible. We're
but it'll be in the fall. Well, it's always in the fall. It's probably in October. It was probably like
right.
I'm gonna bet that it was like October 17th, 2009.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at any rate, and then I guess we just like met up for drinks afterwards or something like that. Probably.
No, I mean I'm sure we did, but you were just so friendly. Is it a Texan thing? Like, I mean, because you're from Texas.
I guess so, but the thing, the only thing about there's 2 me's. Yeah, you got it, man. Thank you very much. There's actually there are 2 me's. Yeah, that's right. This is where I'll
2 me's. There's the over here, and then there's the over here.
There's the there's the off mic, and then there's the on mic. No, and I'm kind of gearing up right now. I mean, so today we're getting closer to the other me. The other me is film festival me. So there's kind of like, I tend to be more, your introvert, work at home by myself kind of person with times to go out. And then as you get sick of your own head, you get sick of working with yourself, you get sick of all those other things. So eventually you're going to meet people. But for me, there's a ramping up that happens to be the other me. And so film.
You were so friendly to me, and I was new in New York pretty much, and I didn't really know anybody. I kind of wanted to meet people.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, what's going on? Oh, you're at the thing, and it was so innocent. It was such a wonderful, innocent meeting. Like, let's go over here. Like,
and then we watched Kevin Smith talk too, and he was.
And then you and I went and we sat next to each other and like, we were buddies.
Yeah.
And from that moment on.
Do you remember his first line?
I don't remember his first line.
His first line. He walked up to the thing, if I remember this correctly, which I may have. I mean, it's weird because now at this point, now I'm doubting myself that I like see this somewhere else.
Make it up.
But I'll make it up. My recollection is he was at a heavier point then,
Right?
And
he's not.
and he walked up to the thing and he was basically like, yeah, I've gained some weight, I'm fat, so what? But then he basically walks next to the podium and he goes, this is what I really am. And then he walks behind the podium and goes, look at me now. You know what I mean? And he was basically did this whole act with like behind the podium thing. Look at me, I'm great. You know.
Oh my God.
So it was really kind of an interesting of just So what? You know, let's talk about why we're here. Kind of, he did that. Like, why are we here? What, you know, clerks, this, you know, blah, blah, blah.
It was cool.
You know.
It was so cool because we were around so many, and I think there was like a little after party there.
I think
probably
so.
took advantage of most of the free drinks. Probably like that's sort of my style. I mean, you're not really a drink. You'll have a drink, but you're not like
no. But I enjoyed the libation. You know what I mean? And I mean, as far as a social,
like the host,
the social. I mean, but the other thing too is that goes back to just, you know, being a musician day, man. Of like, if that's part of your pay, then you know, like I can think of gigs in my life where I was like, you know what, I'm not getting paid, but at least I'm getting this.
At least you get a little libations on the side,
or you know, or freaking libations or chips and salsa. I mean, I remember a particular musical that I played back in Dallas where that was dinner, and I literally ate my weight in chips and salsa. That was it.
No, wait. So what town are you from in Texas?
Born in Austin and grew up in
Austin.
I always say that first.
These posers all trying to get to Austin, and
I'm actually born in Austin.
Yeah, you're actually the Austin guy.
Well, that's not. I mean, part of this is a branding thing for me because I'm always going to go born in Austin and grew up in Dallas, and I always say it kind of. No, I love it. But the point being is, I think there's
Texas then.
There is a part of me that's very much a Texan in New York. There's no question about that.
Think about how many people are moving, like you know, Joe Rogan's moving there now. All these comics are moving there now. Everybody's trying to move to Austin. Everybody's trying to do this Texan thing. And here's you, straight up the OG of.
I was sharing a little bit of the Z. You know, this connects a couple of dots. ZZ Top bass player Dusty Hill died yesterday, and I gotta say, a
little liquor for him.
Yeah, that's right. I know. I mean, the one record that of ZZ Top's it was their live record, which Fandango, which is like one of the ones that I kind of like. I knew that version of. There's some tunes on that album that I knew of their version before I knew other versions. But the point being is just the way he just dug in on his telly bass and the way he's saying it's saying harmony parts and saying leads. He's just, you know, freaking amazing dude. But the point being is like, I watched the documentary on them. And there's
what is that documentary called?
It's just, I think it's just called ZZ Top something or other, but it's on Netflix.
I gotta check.
Well, there's like
I gotta check it out.
There's like a 10-minute part that I filmed a clip of that I've sent to every person that ever had a question to me about Texas, and I send this clip because it's basically like this, your typical New York Jewish entertainment manager guy trying to get a handle on ZZ Top the band, and he can't understand the band, and he goes to Texas and he realizes that Texas is its own country, and that's essentially the angle that he needed to do.
All right, let's talk about Texas for just 5 seconds. Just
well, here's the thing, man. I
love Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, just talk to me about Texas. Just tell me something.
So, okay. So in Texas, we receive. Okay, this is the funny thing. I went to college my freshman year in University of North Texas. That's a jazz school, thinking that everybody else received a year of their own state history, not knowing that Texas, in 7th grade, you get a year of Texas history, only Texas history.
Wait, what?
Before United States history. Yeah. So so basically our founding fathers, we were growing up to believe about, you know, Sam Houston, we learned all about the Alamo, we learned about Stephen F. Austin, you know, all of this stuff.
Juneteenth?
Yeah. Well, no, so that's one interesting thing is that I've known about that's not Juneteenth has been a part of Texas history. It's been talked about the whole time.
Yeah, it finally became like a national.
Yeah, it's a national thing. Finally, but it just, I mean, it happened in Texas.
Texans know about that shit.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. Is you know, certainly layered and
And
as it
Texas tried to secede from the nation.
Well, that's
Like the early nation.
Okay,
Like it was
okay.
kind of the first.
Okay, so we'll go.
let's
go there.
get
So,
in. Yeah, let's
so
get in
people
Texas.
don't, Six Flags. The original Six Flags was between Dallas and Fort Worth, which actually, and there's actually a funny.
This ain't no roller coaster, motherfucker.
No. The funny thing is, there's actually a line in the Foghorn Leghorn cartoon where he's talking, not appropriately about a lady that's very skinny, and he says, that lady reminds me of the road between Dallas and Fort Worth. She's got no curves. And the whole point is that straight road between Dallas and Fort Worth has Six Flags, which was named after the Six Flags of Texas, which is a whole freaking thing.
Do the same.
We're going to definitely turn off some people, but that's all right, man. That's all right. That's where I'm from.
This is my
it's
that's
your thing.
my podcast. We're very offensive here, KTCR.
This is
we totally have
This is
open.
a Texan in New York talking
There's no
to.
curves. It's a long road. Are you talking about the 10? The 10 freeway, or are you talking about?
No, this is that would be 30. This is I-30.
Oh,
I think is what.
I-30?
I mean, there's some of my favorite things about Texas. Of course, is this
Yes. Let's talk
family,
about it. That's great.
family, food,
Family,
space.
space.
And one of the things I would always talk about is just needing to get my space fix, and so I'd go out to far west Texas,
Right.
to Big Bend National Park, which is there's an amazing place.
There's a lot of space out there, and people always say, "Oh yeah, Austin's cool, but the rest of Texas, I don't know."
No, it's.
And I say,
No, it's
open your eyes a little bit. Yeah, people are different down there.
It is.
People
It is
are different.
It is.
Right?
It is,
It's
Ben.
different, right? It's like
But I am the. I mean, there's some folks on my dad's side that don't live in Texas, but pretty much everybody else lives in Texas, and so I've coming up on 25 years in New York City.
like, when did you start playing? Because obviously,
I was kind of all over the place. I mean, I started with piano when I was like first grade, so six or
First
seven.
grade?
Yeah, there's literally a photo of me. My grandfather played saxophone, and there's literally a photo of me in soggy, drippy diapers with my hands in the air, right next to my grandfather, like playing saxophone. So that's at least a little anecdotal whatever, But
just trying to imagine like a little Chris, just like
I know,
right
just
there,
like-
just like. Doo-doo.
But really, I always was like noodling, man. I was always I enjoyed noodling on piano more than I did following all the rules or whatever. I'd make up my own stuff.
With piano, and I think a lot of musicians start with piano.
That's the thing.
Is
I mean,
that
my
a
mom
thing, or-
played.
Okay. Your mother played.
Yeah, my mom played.
So you came from a musical background.
There's some, yeah.
Okay, that makes
I mean, it was
makes a lot.
definitely in the mix. I mean, my mom's an actress and dad's a preacher, so that's
No shit.
that is.
Wait. Mom's an actress.
Right.
Dad's a preacher.
Right.
Was he-
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian,
So that kind of brings into some, I started singing in church choirs in his church,
Were you singing at that
So,
time?
yeah, well, that would have been 4th or 5th grade, so.
So now we've got piano, and now we have
Singing. And then the other thing is
Singing?
acting. So my mom was an actress.
Right, of course.
So this is a whole thing. I had a friend in town a couple of weeks ago. We went on a pilgrimage to a bar called Logan's Run because Logan's Run is after the movie. Or the movie too. So Logan's Run was the film that was shot in Dallas in the late 70s or mid 70s, and that is what set off a whole Third Coast thing that happened in Dallas in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Or at least 70s and 80s. So that's Dallas, the TV show. That's all that stuff. So I was actually kind of a part of some of the other waves of that in terms of getting some acting work as a kid. So that's
You were
another.
a child actor?
Did some, yeah.
What?
So
I'm glad you're not a drug addict. This is crazy.
well, I was an extra, so I was
By the
pretty
way,
much.
Everybody, just so you know, Chris North, not a drug addict.
No,
The farthest thing from it. Actually, he's a teetotaler I've ever seen.
There's been straight edge periods, but the main thing is you have no idea what I'm addicted to. Right.
That'd be called women bitches.
No. It's like it's.
I just put that. I put words.
No,
in
it's getting lost. I love getting lost in the process. And then there's also sports. So I was a Texas athletic kid, and so that meant football in freaking 5th grade. I was playing football in 5th grade.
It's crazy because people always think Texas is this one thing,
Yeah,
and it's not.
it's a bunch of things.
It's so not. I mean, first of all, it's one of the biggest states in the United States for our international listeners. I come from the smallest state, but actually our states have something in common.
What's that, man? What's that?
We both tried to secede.
That is true. That is true. Texas is the biggest of the lower 48, and then Alaska's actually is bigger.
I thought California beat you guys.
No,
on that size.
No. So here's the interesting thing: is like I'm old enough that the Texas State books that I had.
You're only 27.
You're right. But I'm old enough that the books they still had in my elementary school still had Texas as the largest state, which basically means that these books were from pre-1951 or whatever it was that we.
We really need to invest in education.
Right. Because I remember we had to cross out biggest and write boldest. So or grandest. So they changed the Texas.
Why would always Texas? Okay, so what? All right, talk to me.
So we talked about Texas a lot, man.
So
that's
what the fuck is this thing? Okay, the one thing. All right, Texas has got its own. Everybody can talk whatever they want to talk about Texas. What is this beautiful thing that Texans have that I love? What is this independent spirit? What is that? Where is that?
Yeah, I mean,
like the Texan women blow my mind. Like short skirts, barbecues. I'm here in New York City. No offense, New York ladies, but you guys are not these ladies. All right, I'm sorry.
It's different.
Kind of
it's just different. It's just
a
different
thing. Like these women, they got the hair long. No, I mean some got tattoos. No offense for the tattooed women. Now listen, they got short skirts. They're like, you want a barbecues? I mean, I've never been more felt like great as a man down there. So what is this independent spirit? Men have it, and they're kind of like, hey, man, it's all good. We're doing fine. Women got it. What's that? Where does that come from? What is that?
I mean, I don't,
You don't know?
I think there's could be something, there just is. I mean, I think there's something, maybe something in water, something also, and, it also depends on how many generations of folks. I always kind of felt a little bit of, the idea, too, that, of where criminals were sent, but it's not really even. It's not even that.
Like the
it's
Australia of America.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's interesting. You know what I mean?
Really?
No. I have no freaking idea. But
correct?
No, I think there's a lot of things, but I do think there is I think there's something iconic about the. I even think to have a state that has the shape and the size that it does is an interesting thing. I think that there's something.
You're pretty humble. You're not like I'm not saying Texas or braggarts or anything like that.
But
especially not you because you're a very humble man. So like.
Well, what I would say, I mean, one of the things I had to learn about when I first got to town, and this might even something we would have, but for the space thing, for most of my life, there was an appropriate amount of space generally for guys to be away from each other when they're talking. In Texas, so there's a space thing. I come to New York, and it feels very, and it's very, very different.
Everybody's like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Right on top of each other,
over here,
which would have been seen as aggressive in some of my previous life.
Okay.
So that's. There's something
that's very important.
That's something that's really interesting,
Wow,
and
that's very interesting.
And the other thing too is this is a lot of states and a lot of places, but there's definitely a thing of waving at or acknowledging every person you see. So when I go there, even if you're walking around a lake or whatever, you'll wave or say hello to every single person.
Like, hey, what's up? Or hi. Or
and it's interesting how that can be.
If you do that here,
oh my God, you waste half your day.
Fight someone's.
Or you spend your whole day, But
you'd be like, "Hey, what's going on, motherfucker? What are you trying?"
But it's the same thing too on on the side roads in Texas. Like you'll have a car that's going 70 miles an hour, and you will literally a hand will come up off the wheel to just go like this because you haven't seen anybody that day, or the next 2 hours driving that way.
Most of my European friends and European listeners listening to this will understand. Americans, we're friendly people.
Yeah,
I mean, we just are.
There are a lot of things about Europe and New York that are a lot more similar than Texas is to New York.
Yep.
That's what I would say, having been those places.
And so it's odd that a guy like you, being from Texas, would move here. What the hell got you?
It was. I knew. I visited here with my mom in the senior year of high school, and I knew that I knew what I felt. I didn't know what to do about that feeling. You know what I mean? Like I felt electric. I felt like like I will live here someday. I have to live here someday.
So you visited with your mom?
My mom in senior year of high school, just like a Christmas holiday thing, and just stayed.
Oh, and you're like, oh, okay. And how old were you when you first saw New York? You're like,
that was 18. So moving senior year of high school, Christmas time. Somewhere around there. I can't remember. It just blew my mind. I mean, it was like electric.
It's the scariest place in the world.
And this was. I mean, this was still Times Square was pre-Disney Times Square. You know what I mean?
But I'm saying New York is like it's amazing to me how used to New York I am.
Yeah.
Like I don't even. New York's nothing to me.
This is the base level now.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I remember when I first came.
Oh my God! It's just like.
I was scared. I'm sure you with your mother there was like.
It was, but I felt it was electric, and yet it took me when you look at it, it really took me 10 years to act on it. So that's from 17 or whatever.
How old were you when you moved here?
27, and in Dallas, and there was a big wave of things that happened kind of after the new Edie Brickell and New Bohemians. That was a big thing that happened. It was 80.
Paul
that was
Simon, Edie Brickell.
Yeah, right. So this would have been 86, 87, 88. And then you had also another wave of signing of bands that happened in the grunge thing, 93, 94. Yeah. And once I saw that died down, and I was still kind of going in a couple different directions because I
you were playing music.
I was been basically making a living as a musician since I was like 23.
Wait, I'm sorry. Repeat that for everybody who didn't hear that.
Essentially, there's
say that, please.
Sure, just one time. Right. I've been basically making a living with music since 23 or so. You know.
Guys?
So I mean,
he's been making a living as a musician
since 23 or so.
23 years old.
Yeah. So that was in Dallas, and that would have been. I was playing bass in symphonies. I was singing in church choirs. I had collaboration. I had my own band in 2 different versions. Had an acoustic version of my band that played coffee shops once a week. Played gigs once or two every 2 months. Put out an album. Also collaborated with dance groups.
And
did music for
New York City.
Oh yeah, this is all what I was doing. This is all And but the point being, Dallas. I saw that the bands, everything was happening was like, okay, that feeling I felt when I went to New York? I just kept on, what I would do is I'd do this insane thing where I would actually visit New York in the cold of winter, because it was cheaper and I kind
of like New York in the winter.
Yeah, I love it. And I'd come here and I basically get so freaking electrified. And I would take that energy with me back to Dallas, and people would go like, "Oh, slow down, man! Slow down! You're too intense. And I'm just like, no, I know what I'm already there. You don't understand. I'm already there. I might not be there yet, but I'm already there. This is like 92, 93, 94,
I fucking love it.
And so, and I just got sick of people telling me to chill out. But the other part of it is that the Dallas signing frenzy that happened. So the band thing, guess what, dude? The band thing's not going to happen. Your band's not going to get signed. You're going to be waiting for the French Friday guy to get a better job. I even got, a second chair in the symphonies that I was playing, and I was like, you know what?
I have 2 middle
fingers up. I was just basically like...
Not against Chris, of course.
But if I'm honest with myself, I probably wouldn't have moved to New York solo. So there was a person that I was working... I was doing a dancer choreographer that I was working with, and we moved to New York City together. And that was...
You moved here because of a woman.
Yeah, okay, that's a thing, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, and in any other...
You're not alone in this.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things we
could have ruled Dallas if you wanted.
If I'd just stayed long enough. But it's like waiting for the French Friday guy to die. Meaning, like, you have to wait for somebody to die for you to get a better job. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's like big fish, small pond kind of shit.
Right. So whether that was as a bass player, was that as a band thing, whether that was a multi-arts, creator, you know what I mean? I felt like essentially I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm making a living. I'm doing okay. I'm 25, 26.
Think about that.
You know what I mean?
23 years old.
I'm making a living as a musician, and I sing, I play bass, I have bands, I'm putting out records, I'm doing music for dance, I'm doing music for theater, and yet I just could tell it was. I could have repeated that. And not have that energy that I felt when I was in New York. So basically, I'd go to New York, and I'd get super, for lack of a better word, pumped up and just really electrified and excited and inspired, and realized there was another level. There was always another gear.
What did you think? Because it was like the Broadway thing, or
no? There's different narratives that in our own story, and yet the thing I just love. I love creating. I love meeting people. I love. And I love sharing what I know, and I love getting lost in the process.
Sure.
And I also love not necessarily always knowing what the next day is going to be. And the simple fact is that some New York City days, and this is something I've encountered when thinking about other places to live, you know, even if it's just once a month or once every 6 months, you can literally have a day in New York where you can do 6 things that will just freaking blow your mind. You know what I mean? And I can rattle off some of those days that I've had here, and I don't. There's no way it could have happened in another city. And part of it is the train thing. You're running into other people.
Right.
You know, days where you know.
There's that.
I mean,
but you must have been intimidated when you got here.
Oh yeah.
You're like, okay, I can play my instrument.
Right.
I can do this. What'd you get hooked up with when you first got here? What year was it? They got hooked
So
up
this is so moved here June 1st, 1997. You know. But here's the thing, dude. Like,
Old
here's the
school
other
kids.
thing. Here's the other thing. As I worked for an entire year in Dallas, saving up money so that I did not have to work my first 3 months here.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, which is kind of a. I mean, I was like, I literally did every. This is in Dallas, so '96 Dallas. I make this decision. I take on every gig I can. I do teach every student I can. I do all the stuff I can. You're gonna spend every day out in the world meeting people, and you know. So that was June of '97, and I was just telling the story the other day. So like when that,
97?
so that's when the MetroCard just first came out, and on the MetroCard you could
had coins, right?
You could take a train. You could get a free transfer. So what I would do is I would take the train to the audition, and I would use the bus to get back. So it'd only be on one fare. So I learned the bus system that way. You know what I mean? So somebody was asking me about bus stuff. And they were like, "How do you know so much about bus?" I was like, "Well, I had
like, bitch, this is how we do.
That's how I did." So
it's not like the New York of now.
No, this is '97.
This is pre 9/11. This is like
all that stuff. You know,
a whole different kind of. New
this
York
is even
City.
pre.com stuff, man. This is like pre
this is like
92K stuff.
Dial-up. This is like 56K. I mean, like this is some.
This is still American. This is still still American Online. Yeah. So
unbelievable.
So but it went a couple different ways.
Brave though.
I mean, you know, as I said, in my heart of hearts, I don't know if I would have done it by myself. You know what I mean? That's the thing.
But because you were in a relationship, so
and was working.
With a girl,
we were working. We were working together. We had an apartment.
She was a musician as well?
No, dancer choreographer.
Okay, perfect. So 2 artists, right? 2 ideas. Here you are. You're not the first one, by the way. And if you go back to Monty, like, you know, my painter friend, he moved here also because of the lady. It's not rare. Most people come to New York in
and probably any, you know, to be fair, which, you know, not to talk about that relationship too much, but to be fair, any other city we probably would have lasted 5-10 years. But in a small studio apartment, working together, learning everything that you learn in a first year of a New York City. Oh yeah, we lasted a year and a month. You know what I mean?
Well, I like to say that anything that happens here is like dog years. You know?
Yeah.
This is like, you know, 1 year is like 7. So. And again, no offense, and everybody's always like, why is New Yorkers always so arrogant? It's like, I don't know, bitch, why don't you move here? Come tell me that something's not right, and then stay here, and then you will see you age even.
So like,
or you start drinking the blood of the innocent, and that's what I do.
I mean, it was, in that first summer was like all of that. No, it was like all that stuff, man. It was like, just a couple anecdotes about that first summer. It was like I had a cheap wheel for my bass.
Where were you living?
This is 95 Lexington, which is at 26 in Lexington. So,
so it's kind of like Upper East Side.
No, it's just Midtown West Side, East Side. You know, East 20s. Kips Bay is what they call it. You know, but it was
old Kips,
right?
Pirate Kip.
But that was, I mean, the New York that I fell in love with, going back to. I mean, there was what I felt in '90, and there was what I felt in high school, and then there was the day I decided, which was probably somewhere around '93. So I decided I was going to move to New York, but it took a while to kind of act on it, you know. And I mean, I even remember where I was. I was at this cafe, which is long since closed, and of course now I'm spacing on the name of it, but it doesn't matter. It's in the East Village. Yeah. East Village is the place where I was like, I decided, okay, this is what the energy I want. Yeah. And to be quite honest, like going back into our story. The energy I felt in the East Village in the early 90s, similar to the energy that I felt going to Williamsburg, of us hanging out at the time when you were doing all our short films together. You know what I mean? Like, because like just the electricity, the buzzing, you know, of like young people. Yeah.
And we'll be right back. 2, 1. Killed Cat Radio.
So I bring 2 basses to New York City to be a bass player in New York City, which is insane.
Wheeling around a fucking...
I'm gonna wheel around this freaking bass all around and sweat.
Who does that?
I'm gonna sweat. I'm gonna sweat so much. People are going, "Why do you wear black all the time?" It's like, you're a bass player in New York City. Are you kidding me? You're gonna sweat so much. Freaking.
You can't wear pink.
No.
You're gonna have like
ring. I'm gonna.
There's nothing worse of a man to have like sweat stains. So black is the.
No, you.
The choice. Product.
You're always going to be sweating like a mother, So.
Damn. So you came up that way.
Yeah, and my first break was there's two big ones. I got a teaching job at the 92nd Street Y, which was like
wow.
So that was like the big thing.
Such a cool place too. Like they do such great talks.
So I started there in the fall of '97, and then this is kind of another thing. I sang in little Christmas quartets down in the World Trade Center that first Christmas. And because of that, my sight singing was incredible. I did all this other singing. And I had this like gold...
You can read music.
All that stuff, yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the game.
Down.
You give it to me, I can read it.
No joke.
I can read it. Yeah, and so so January of 1998, I have this golden audition to sing in the choirs with the New York Philharmonic. And I nailed the audition.
What?
I nailed the audition. I'm singing with the New York Philharmonic, Okay. And I did that for 10 years.
All right, musicians out there, no offense, you better start working harder because this motherfucker's out here. Okay, that's all I'm saying. No offense. I love punk rock music, and I'm a punk rocker, but
it's a daily thing, man.
Where credit's due.
Yeah, you gotta, there's the 10,000 hours, and there's more than 10,000 hours,
Of course.
So those were like 2 kind of pivotal breaks.
And then what was the second one?
Well, that was, so it was, first one was 92nd Street Y, second one was singing with the Phil, so that was all within like 6 months, of being here, which is...
Oh my God, man.
Pretty, but that all tracks back to the first 3 months of just not working at all, so...
Oh, so you definitely went through some time of...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like what happened was like I had like the whole summer... didn't work at all. I was out like freaking meeting people and doing all kinds of free stuff and free stuff. Sure, I'll play this, sure that, and make some money.
And that's good because that's good for practice. And whatever
you got to fill the schedule, freelancer stuff. Sure, whatever.
That's another thing.
Spend all the time. I remember this, but then I started doing some temp work, and this is an insane thing for people to realize. Even in the fall of '98, there was temp work where they literally just wanted somebody to sit in a chair. So I got paid $17, $18, $19, $20 an hour to literally sit in a chair in the Woolworth building. And I spent that whole time doing like either cold calling or doing resume stuff. So yeah, I worked temp for
not even using your skills.
Yeah, I worked temp for like 2 months and never looked back. So I've never done anything non-music related in New York City except for those 2 months of temp, which I probably should have done earlier, but that's...
And then, so when you got to New York City, and especially after 9/11, which was a huge one, most of the people that have been on this radio program have talked about that moment. And they focus on where they were and what was going on, and the whole city was wrecked. I wasn't here.
Yeah.
I was only here for this pandemic and Sandy and all the other shit, but that must have just ruined everything, right? For you, like. In your sense.
Yeah. But for me, there was also, I don't want to pivot from that conversation to other ones, but it's interesting because the different waves of all this stuff that I've been through New York. So there was even a weird thing where all of a sudden gigs made more money leading up to 1999. At the same time, then the .com thing bubble burst. Right. So that actually knocked out a whole bunch of stuff. There's the the Y2K stuff that happened, and then
no one ever talks about that.
And then there was the 9/11, and even after 9/11, there was all the anthrax and the mail stuff that got just the heightened energy. I remember just being freaked out about like not even feeling like you could touch things because there was talk of other chemical stuff kind of going on, even the month or two afterwards. But at every step of the way, it's just horrible stuff. People I knew, etc., etc.
And you were just pushing through, like
it's a pivot. It's always pivot, man. It's always freaking smelled. That's
what you learn that here. The pivot. Did you learn that in Dallas?
I learned it in Dallas. I learned that in Dallas.
You
just
knew
like
that from just being somewhere else, and then you knew that you could come here and then
do the same thing, right? Yeah, I actually think I think what I learned in Dallas was the ways to be bendable, not breakable. So I basically
fucking repeat that for the audience.
I was always, how the frick do I bend? You know what I mean?
No, say that same thing.
You know, basically, you know, how much I can still keep the core of myself and still
bendable but not breakable.
And find the places where I can bend. And if I'd moved to New York City earlier, I know in my heart of hearts I probably would have been breakable. You know what I mean? So moving to New York when I did, knowing what I knew, meant that I was bendable in a way that I get a phone call. Hey man, you want to write some
shit right there?
You know, you want to write some songs for Disney, Sesame Street? Oh sure, I'll do that. Sure, yeah. Do you want to play bass on this boat ride thing? Sure, I'll do that. I did these things. You know, do you want to play? Do you want to sing in a Russian chamber choir at Carnegie? Yeah, I'll do that. Do you want to like write some music for this dance piece, for this play? Yeah, I'll do that. And all the while, I'm funding my own stuff to put out my own records, put out my own stuff, my own chamber music, my own albums.
So
and
when you
stuff
were
like
in
that.
Dallas, before you got here, were you in a band? Did you have your stuff?
Yeah.
Did you have like your shit together?
I had a band called Blue Sky, actually. Blue Sky
name,
with an extra E, like the Blue
wait,
Sky.
Yeah, all right,
you know.
Okay.
It was kind of just a funk pop rock with some. It was eclectic for sure. You know, mostly a trio, sometimes a quartet.
Did you start this band?
Yeah, this was my.
That's awesome.
It was all over the place, you know.
Oh my God.
You know,
so
but
you already did it right.
to put out a CD in '94. That was
a different thing. It was four track.
It was
Tascam 4 tracks.
It just like, oh my God. I mean, the fact that I had to like learn Quark Express and Photoshop and just like
shit, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, and then even the way it was recorded. This is old school stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's the same thing of just the multi arts approach and the collaborative approach, and then constantly. We're looking for the tea leaves, smelling the wind, whatever it takes to basically go. Do I have to pivot?
Gypsy moves.
Do I have to pivot? You know, how can I pull my Jack Sparrow and just like dance around whatever the fuck is coming?
No, I can bend,
but won't break. You know.
So good. God damn it. I think so many people need to hear that, especially now after the pandemic stuff.
Yeah.
Like, where can you go where you can bend and where you don't break?
The thing that I kind of really push back on the most, though, is people that are obsessed with the idea of the fame part of it or the star part of it, that you want to be a star. And it's like, well, there's, most of humanity has had working artists that we'll never hear about, and working musicians, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? And somehow, you know what I mean? Like, to be a working artist that's doing the work, that's sharing the thing
you've been making money. Not making money, like not a rich guy, but you've been doing art in New York City for how long?
24 years. So,
Okay, you guys hear that?
24 years.
It's for the kids out there.
I don't
care how old you are out there.
It's like
you guys are like 57. You want to move to New York City?
Yeah.
Why don't you move to New York City right now?
And
this guy did it.
And when things happen, like last spring. And you have to pivot, that's when you pivot, and yet still figure out how to keep your own kind of internal balance and all that stuff.
So you're
like that.
bendable and not breakable.
Hell yeah. That's the stuff. So and when we first met, dude, like,
oh my God,
I was, I don't mind telling the audience, I was probably weighed 30 pounds heavier than I do right now, Well,
you were fatter?
No, I never
looked at you like that.
But I wasn't healthy. I wasn't,
like
but I was in a different mindset, just in terms of.
You were always the same, but you had but your attitude.
The attitude. I mean, I feel.
Because of shit how much you weigh. I mean, like, attitude.
Yeah, I mean, there was one person I should definitely give a shout out to, which is a guy named Howard Katz Fireheart. So Howard is this guy that he was doing kind of a multi-arts thing at Sidewalk Cafe, open mic type stuff. This would have been that first summer.
Right, they closed down, unfortunately, right?
And so from that, I met so many people. I would just play bass. I'd play bass with him, harmonica with him. He'd do some dance stuff, some comedy routines, some theater stuff, some songs. And this was all like when anything goes, Sidewalk Cafe type stuff,
But you must miss like the open stage.
Oh yeah, just
Isn't it like, come on.
I mean, the whole like waiting,
and not just like on Broadway. I mean, like doing Broadway stuff. That's like so amazing, right?
So that first Broadway thing was like 2001. So that's kind of like
So how many Broadway shows did you play in Broadway? Old school.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just thinking about the Lion King, and did that for like 10 years on the guitar chair, on the bass chair and the guitar chair.
You were in the bass chair and the guitar chair.
And in the guitar chair. Yeah.
On Lion King.
For like 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Yeah.
On Broadway.
On Broadway.
In New York City.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sub, so that means I was playing anywhere from like 1 to 8 shows a week, you know. And
1 to 8 shows a week. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Right,
God, you're so lazy, Chris.
I know, man.
Such a lazy bastard.
You know, one thing that I didn't realize that I didn't say, like, that's, you know, but it was weird, man, because I looked around and I just go, you know what? I like bass. I can make a living on it. It's not all I want to do. It's not anywhere close to all I want to do.
Why don't you just stick with that? You can just do that. You can ride that out.
No, that's like, I mean, I love bass, but I'm not just a bass player. And sometimes
You could have wrote.
Yeah, I could.
Could you have ride that out? Just like
probably.
Fun, like just like this is what I do.
Yeah. But I'm always, you know, I always sang, loved making stuff. I've always started most of my best days of my life start off with just piano. Just like I just literally start playing the piano. I did that this morning. First thing is just played piano for a little bit, made up stuff, little noodling on piano, always noodling, making up stuff.
Why is it always the most talented people or the most humble people? I don't understand what
I don't know, man. But you, my friend, are also very humble too, and yet you know, but writer, novelist, filmmaker, incredible bartender back in the day too.
That. All right, yeah. So basically, here's the story. I already can see where he's nudging into this. So I ended up asking Chris. I was like, "Look, man, I didn't even know what you were doing at that point." I was like, "Hey, man, you want to make some music for this movie?" And I was, you guys know about me. I was an amateur filmmaker. I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, "Hey, Chris, you want to make some music for this film, or whatever?" And you did.
Did some.
And how many?
We did at least 3 or 4.
Oh my God!
You know.
It's like,
I mean, what's wild too is like, I think for me, film scoring was the thing I was always meant to do. I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I'm a producer. I'm a teacher. I'm a professor. But
you're lazy.
But okay, all right, man. Well, but some of those things I do okay, and but the thing I was kind of trying to get to is that even working as hard as I did, playing bass or as a singer or as a songwriter.
Right.
Most things in my life, I would put a lot of energy into it, and sometimes I get back the same energy. Sometimes I get back 2. Sometimes I get back 5. You know, but for me, it really felt like the more I did film scoring, I would get back 5. I would get back 10. I'd get back 20.
Wow.
Just in terms of how in terms of energy, in terms of
you would feel more that you were connected to
or even financially, or just a sense of, you know, this is where listen to the universe, like, you know, listen. By the way, that's my Instagram handle, listening to the universe.
Oh no, we're gonna put that out.
Yeah, that's right,
definitely.
Right. So, you know, listening to, you know, what is the universe telling you, and you might have the ego to think, okay, well, no, wait, I really want to still do this thing. Well, no, you know what? These can be separate things. It's okay. You know, which means I'm still a songwriter. I'm still going to put out albums as a songwriter, but whether or not the world responds to them the same way, it doesn't really matter as much as it did before, where I was like, no, I just want the world to do, you know, it's like I've listened to the universe, and the universe says, you know what? Run with this film scoring thing. Keep on doing the teaching that you're doing. There's a lot of stuff that's working. I mean, I would literally, every single possible student I could take, I would take. But that means everything. I mean, I'm talking about freaking. So
if they had $5, you'd be like.
No, I also mean whichever instrument. So like, I would basically stay 2 weeks ahead of the instrument, and on them, I would study ahead of them and practice ahead of them.
How many instruments can you actually play?
I mean, I've made a living as a bass player, guitar player.
I get that.
And you know.
But how many instruments can you actually play?
I mean, so on some of my albums,
singing, guitar, bass.
Pretty much a lot of string stuff. Anything strings, harmonica, sitar, those are some of the main ones. So string stuff, percussion, drums. I mean, that was the thing I was going to say. Is like I did in Dallas, I played drums a lot, and I haven't played as much in New York, but percussion.
But you can.
Yeah. Percussion, harmonica. You know, all your strings. Just not much brass or woodwinds.
Okay, so not on that side.
Not on that side. But
so we're not throwing you down with the saxophone. So if I had a
No.
saxophone,
No.
you'd be like, no, we're not doing this.
One of the things with the Lion King guitar chair is that you play electric guitar, you play classical guitar, you play ukulele, which I also played, and then you play thumb pianos, those little imbiras. So, so that was another one of these like things you pick up over the years, and that's like kind of like a film scoring like secret weapon of mine. That's like just having and some of that stuff is that your films inspired.
So good.
The way it was shot, the process with you.
Yeah, but also working together, because I could tell you something. I'd be like, hey, we need this, this, and this, and you would just chime in with me.
Yeah. For me, it's always been try to find a way to make it happen with every filmmaker any way possible. And what I mean by that is figure out ways to say yes, figure out ways to get the job, figure out ways to meet new filmmakers, and then let that take on wherever it goes. So, for example, back to IFP. Okay, I probably somewhere around 2012-ish. I went to IFP, met a filmmaker named Nicole Teeny, and she was making a documentary, and in that process realized that she ended up, her film got into Slamdance. So this is like, I met her in October.
Nice.
December, she finds out, about Slamdance and has to finish the film, and as well as they had a bunch of music that they didn't have rights to, and there's some things that wasn't working, and so I get called to do the score, so I do the score for Bible Quiz, which goes on to win Best Doc at Slamdance.
Wow.
Interesting thing about Slamdance and Sundance, they happen at the same time, and yet the press is kind of equal if you win. So one of the things I didn't expect was, it's in all the papers because the awards they happen at the same time. They're always in the same thing. Because of that film, I later got hired through knowing the editor. He brought me on for another film called Flag Football, which was about gay flag football league, which was executive produced and supervising editor Sam Pollard's. And Sam Pollard is the Emmy Award-winning multi-Grammy and Oscar-nominated director, editor, who's worked with Spike Lee a whole bunch. He worked on that film Flag Football, which eventually he thought of me to work on 2 Trains Running. So 2 Trains Running is the Grammy-nominated Best Music Film about blues and civil rights that is, one of those things where you got to go to the Grammys. I got to do all this. You got to work alongside my heroes. So that's my.
Who were the people that you worked with, your heroes?
Well, first of all, the film has songs by Gary Clark Jr. It has performances, Lucinda Williams, Buddy Guy, and then of course there's archival performances by Son House and Skip James. So who the fridge am I to put my guitar playing next to all these people? So I had to find some way to get over myself to make the score for this film and sit in this kind of a blues and civil rights documentary, which means
some rarefied air, right?
Which was it was amazing. It was totally amazing, Wow. So there's all of that. That's just one little thing. IFP say yes to a doc, do that score, 40 minutes of music in 3 weeks, wins best doc. Get hired for another doc about flag football that I got hired, mind you, because I was a football player. I was the only composer football player that the guy could ever meet. And yet Bible Quiz, I'm a son of a preacher, so I score a film called Bible Quiz to flag football, gay flag football, to blues and civil rights. There's a through line from saying yes at IFP to Grammys. I had this one student one time that asked me how many strings I have in my apartment.
Well, that's a whole thing, right?
Which took me.
6,
it's like there's a couple of 12 strings. There's a arpeggi. There's a guitar viol. There's all these
even old school instruments.
Yeah,
too.
I do. So I have like I have a 1933 K bass. I have a 1929 Gibson banjo-lele. I have both of which were used on the 2 Train score, and then I have new things. I have a 5-string Gruner plywood, a carved bass that I've played in classical gigs, and so there's 3 basses right now. There's 3 freaking acoustic basses in my apartment.
You got some really odd instruments too. Like you've got some old like stringed instruments, but they're like Africa, like from Africa. Like
there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I have everything from your mandolins, your banjos, your sitars, your Middle Eastern instruments,
and all of those you can play.
Yeah, I can do something with them. My first job, especially for young creatives, my first job is to do no harm. That's number one. Is always
what?
First job with young creative people.
Yeah.
Is to do no harm. That I cannot do something that harms them.
Isn't that like what the cops said?
Yeah, no, it's like a doctor said. So Socratic, whatever it is, the do no harm. So basically,
you don't want to stifle. So
no.
What you mean by that is like you don't want to stifle anybody's.
No, we're talking about fragile. They're revealing their souls. They're revealing their stuff like that.
No,
like
you're right.
I don't want to say anything that stops them from doing that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much always going to be the thing of here's 5 positive things, or at least a couple of positive things, and then I'm going to pick my battles. I'm going to pick one thing that I'm going to say to them to help make maximum impact in the most
on what they're doing.
To help them the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that has to be.
What a great teacher! What a great philosophy that is.
And sometimes it'll be 2 things, but most of the time I'm like, right. I'll just find one thing. You know what I mean? It's really weird because I have to own my own stuff in that moment. Wait a second, am I saying this because of where I'm at today, or because of what I think about them, or because of, or what's the best for them? Well, sometimes it's going to be a little bit different things, and that's one of the things about me as a human being, as a teacher, is that I cannot always. I cannot completely separate myself from the moment, or from the lesson, or from what's going on in the fucking room. Yeah. That's the other part of it. It's like I got to be in the room because there's other people watching this whole thing.
Right.
I'm the one in charge of the OL. That's the whole where the class is.
You're running it.
There's the class.
Got it.
There's the Zoom with the 12 people there, 12 students there. There's the student sharing their lyrics, their songs, their MP3s, which I am in most cases the one that's going to hit play on that and sharing the audio of that. I'm simultaneously watching the chat.
Oh my God, what a challenge.
So what is that doing to my brain in 7 different things, and then doing
their brains,
and then doing that for 6, and yet, circling back to the Dark Offerings, this film that I did, the feature I did last year, that was my first. I did several shorts and a couple of dance pieces over this last year, all done remotely. But this feature was all done remotely too, except for the last session. So I was 2 weeks out from my vaccination. We actually all met in person for the last mix session.
Got to finally.
We got to, it's a filmmaker I've been working with for a long time, but it was actually for this feature we only met in person once. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which once again goes back to Bible Quiz, which we were talking about before. That particular film. The filmmaker was traveling for most of the process, so I had to work out how the heck are you going to work remotely. And so some of the stuff that I did on that film in 2013, it actually translates to all these things how do you work remotely. And good God, any resistance that I had previously had to Google all things, the Google Suite, your sheets, your docs, your keeping track of files, your naming system, all that stuff has been dialed in for a long time. And what's weird is, as I meet even folks that are much more talented and have in another pay grade than myself, whether it's the technical people or the bigger filmmakers and composers, in terms of how do you deal with files? How do you keep track of all this stuff? How do you keep track of all the feedback?
Oh my God.
What's crazy is that I arrived at a system that is still very similar to what most of them do.
Oh, so you already had
I kind of did my own way, right. But by trial and error, I realized how much I landed really close to it in terms of naming systems of things.
So is there like a certain style that you're attracted to, or are you attracted to only ideas?
It's people. It's people and the ideas. So it's all of that stuff. Yeah.
Because do you only like horror? Do you only like romance? Do you only like?
Yes. So
you're open to.
Oh, that's going. I'll do it.
Jingles.
Yeah.
Are you open to comedy?
Oh my God! Yeah.
You're all over the place.
I will.
You're that guy.
I would endeavor to say yes, to say everything. Because I'm going to learn something from it, and it's also going to keep it fresh. And
so many people, especially musicians. No offense against the other musicians out in the world, but to me, the most arrogant people are the ones who know the least.
Yeah.
and it's and anybody I've worked with. I mean, I've worked with you, worked with other people, and usually the people who are the most talented don't give a shit what it is.
I just want to
within the field of what they're gonna do.
And what's even more insane than that is sometimes, dude, I don't even care if it's bad or good. I just want it to be interesting. You know what I mean? Like, I just like let's just make something really interesting. You know what I mean?
He's talking about my film.
No. Like, well, no, I think part of the problem is that you can prejudge stuff. Your assumption of what is bad or good.
A filmmaker, man. I mean, eventually.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. Well, the thing you should know too is like,
if I had a budget, maybe some,
There are things that you brought out at me, the terms of your brand of suspense, horror, thriller type stuff, and psychological terror. I mean, there was also terror. Yeah,
I love that stuff. Someone told me something great when I first moved here, and she was such a nice lady. She wasn't trying to be rude to me. She said, "Matt, you're a lovely young man." This is when I first moved here. It's like she was from the Bronx. Yeah, it's like she's like, "You're a lovely young man, but congratulations. You don't move to New York City to be somebody.
Yeah,
you move to New York City to find out who you always were.
Right.
It'll burn the fat off your body in a way that no other city will.
Hell yeah. There's not
because people are you can't be bullshit here.
No.
Either you is or you ain't. And
there's
crazy.
I think there can be different kinds of backing for some folks that can put off that real conversation in a different way. But ultimately, even you really got to love what you love, and also know what your core is, and know your center, and yet be flexible, and yet and bend, and say yes, and for me it's say yes even if it's messy. I'm gonna jump in even if it's a messy person.
I'm about to say, because a lot of musicians move here and they want to do what you're doing. So what would you tell them? I mean, that they just rolled in.
I think the one thing, and I'm still learning how to do this better, which is, if you know exactly what you want to do, by all means do that. But if there's some parts of that are flexible, and that you have some other dimensionality to you, meaning you've got some ancillary skills that are really good, like, yeah, you want to have your thing where you're the star, but you also happen to be a really good co-star, or you're really good on the post-production thing. This can kind of act as a metaphor for anything, but you basically find ways that you can help other people in an integral way actualize their dream while you learn stuff. So for me, when I first moved to town, I knew I wasn't going to have a band immediately. I was like, you know what? Let me be a bass player. Let me be a side person. Let me meet all the sound people. Let me meet all the people who book shows. Let me, get to know Kenny at Bitter End. Let me get to just kind of, because I wasn't comfortable going. I'm going to come.
You're not going to roll in.
I'm not going to like. I was not like. I was like. I'm here. I'm Christopher North from Dallas, Texas. And I'm gonna play. No, actually, for me, it was like, let me help some other people, and let me learn what the scene is. Let me, and then when I'm just comfortable enough, because it's still going to be me coming in the foreground. But I also like oscillating between that, that support collaborative role and then me in the foreground. I don't actually enjoy being in the foreground all the time, which that's the thing. Is sometimes I really like just being kind of a supportive bass player type person, rock solid dude in the background. Part of making your art is using your imagination and seeing what's not there yet. And it is possible for you to be there before you're there. Yeah. And even if some people think you're a little nuts. So for me, I'm thinking about myself in Dallas. I'm 22, 23, 24, 25. I'm not in New York City yet. But I've spent enough time to have some idea of what New York City might be like. And I've somehow infused my daily life. Everything about my daily life is already there. I'm already there, even if I'm not there yet. I literally, and is that a form of some kind of just visions, or I've just built a framework where I could understand what my daily life might be like, even if there's things I got wrong.
But you're not even,
So that means, and some of that, yourself. And I think the other part of it is I think you got to look towards models, So I'm very much, we're looking at your books in here. I think about some of the books that I've enjoyed the most, which are biographies and autobiographies about people talking about their own life. I think about, and now we have, of course, even listen to podcasts of getting to learn other people's lives. I mean, the things that I learned, for example, like even we were talking about some Mark Maron stuff earlier.
Yeah.
The Mark Maron interview with James Taylor and the way that he talked about his sobriety and talks about his relationship to exercise actually deeply affected me because it helped me understand something about. As I understand of like, oh, wait a second. Oh wow, him? What the hell? But point being is that to learn from models. That's the other thing. So you have to study your models. Meaning, and it also can be a combination of models. Meaning, look to people that are already done what you've done. That can be superstars, but that can also be your local yokels. They're doing something close to what you're doing. And if there's any part of them that you don't like, then you can also have anti-models. So some of us have mentors. Some of us has models. Some of us have a bunch of people that you don't want to be like. And what eventually starts to happen is you start to kind of know the own model within yourself based on anti-models. And that's something that I think in mentoring is actually not talked about in much, is that like, no, you can have 7 anti-models that help determine your own mentoring yourself in ways that no one person could solve. You know what I mean? And that's one of the gifts that I've given to students over the years, but especially over the last year.
How do you keep hope alive, though?
I don't know. I mean, as I'm thinking about how to answer that, I think one of the other things that served me well over the years is the fact that in my imaginative state, I can imagine beautiful, amazing things. I can also imagine horrific things. And so for me, I can imagine winning an Oscar someday. I can imagine, all these kinds of wonderful, look at me type stuff. I really don't go there very much, but I can imagine it. I can imagine there's a pathway on what I'm on. Will I ever be 100% happy? Probably not. You know what I mean? I'm always, I've let go of that a freaking long time ago, man. And that itch is what gets me up earlier and all these things. On the other side, I can imagine none of those things happening. And somehow, in my daily practice, in my daily relationship with myself, and my work, and my art, and my fellow human being, and even my like spiritual connection, my artistic connection, my professional connections, my interpersonal, all those things. How do I do stuff that gives me more energy and that keeps me centered, and that even if none of those other things happen, I'm still going to be happy somehow. You know what I mean? And so the challenge is how do you say to a young person, what if all your dreams come true? Work towards your dreams. But what if none of your dreams come true? Will you still find a way to be happy?
That's it for this week. Lots of new developments coming soon. We've got some new Audible essays, some new social commentary, and of course, more sit-downs with fascinating people. This is Kill the Cat Radio. I'm Matthew Diabate. And until next week, stay curious. We're signing off.